for House Bill 5537, repealing obsolete and outdated sections of the Education Code. Third reading of the bill. The bill is advanced to third reading with the right to amend.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. The Committee on Education moved to amend the bill by striking out everything after the enacting clause.
Senator from Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill repeals obsolete and outdated
Senator from Mason asks unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill repeals obsolete and outdated sections of code relating to the professional development, the 3-year behavior interventionist pilot program, a requirement for county boards to annually compile a list of facilities available for child care, high school graduation improvement, and a requirement for the District Board of Education to comply with law and regulations of the State Board. Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions. I urge adoption.
Is there discussion? The clerk has an amendment to the amendment.
Senators Weld, Charnock, Clements, Deeds, Garcia, Grady, Hamilton, Jeffries, Maynard, Phillips, Queen, Takubo, Tarr, Woelfel, and Woodrum move to amend the committee amendment on page 1.
Senator from Brook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none.
Thank you, Mr. President. My amendment, along with numerous other of my colleagues that you have before you, amends the article of code dealing with county boards of education. Again, it's the article of code dealing with county boards of education, and states that county boards may not approve a request for home instruction for a currently enrolled student if there is a pending child abuse or neglect investigation against a custodial parent or guardian with whom the child resides, or against a person that would assume the responsibility as the primary provider of the home instruction. The report has been initiated by a school teacher or other school personnel pursuant to the mandatory requirements that are already in state code. Further, the amendment further states that each county shall adopt a policy requiring any teacher or other school personnel who makes a report of child abuse or neglect to inform the county and superintendent of the child's school district within 24 hours of that report being made. The policy shall also state that within 24 hours of receiving the notice of the report, the county super shall inquire whether or not an investigation has been reported to an investigation has been initiated by the Department of Human Services, and the department shall provide confirmation to the super within 48 hours of that request. And lastly, it states that unless other eligibility requirements prevent the approval of home instruction, a county board shall approve the request for home instruction if the county board receives written determination by the Department of Human Services that the child abuse or neglect investigation is unfounded or has been closed as unsubstantiated, or no substantiation of the investigation has been provided by the department to the county board within 10 days of the report being made. And lastly, I should state, subsection E, this section shall be known as Raylee's Law. Mr. President, what this amendment sets out to do, and what it does, is it offers some protection against the child and ensuring that no one who abuses or neglects a child can be permitted to take that child out of the school system and bring them to the home where there's now a lack of supervision as a result of that abuse or neglect report. But it also creates a mechanism by which, if a report is not substantiated, or if the department has not completed its investigation with a 10-day time period, that the county board shall approve that request. And so this is not meant at all as a punishment towards a person or a group, but is instead meant to protect children that are in our school system. It is meant to offer protection to the children of our school districts. So this is not punishment or any nature of that, but that's what the amendment does. Happy to answer any questions. I urge adoption of the amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there discussion? Senator from Jefferson.
Mr. President, is this germane?
Senate be at ease. Senate come to order. To the senator from Jefferson, your point is not well taken. The amendment to the amendment is germane. To the amendment. So, is there further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Senator from Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to be clear, we are speaking to the amendment as offered from the senator from Brooke and about 15 other senators in this chamber. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so I want to talk about the amendment and the importance of this amendment to the amendment. There have been a lot of things said this session about this bill the bill in itself in many different ways, amendments in many different ways, this issue in many different ways. But I want us to focus on something that should unite every single one of us in this chamber, and that's protecting children. Across West Virginia, thousands of families homeschool their children with love, dedication, and a deep commitment to their education. Many of these parents sacrifice time, they sacrifice resources and energy to give their children the very best opportunities. Homeschool families are not the problem. And this is not about punishing or targeting them. But sadly, Mr. President, there are rare and tragic cases where the homeschooling system has been misused to hide abuse. That is why this is needed. This comes from a lot of heartbreaking stories. Stories of children who fell through the cracks, children who were withdrawn from their school and then disappeared from the view of teachers, counselors, nurses, and other caring adults. Teachers in our school system are mandatory reporters. We are trained to recognize bruises that don't make sense, sudden behavioral changes, signs of neglect, or cries for help that might otherwise go unnoticed. But when a child is removed from school without any follow-up, sometimes the system loses sight of that child entirely. Mr. President, this is not an attack on parental freedom. It's an attack on child abusers and a protection for those kids who are being abused. Nothing more. It does not dictate curriculum. It does not interfere with how families educate or raise their children. And it does not criminalize homeschooling. What it does do is make sure that no child disappears in silence. Every single child in West Virginia deserves to be seen, Mr. President. Every child deserves someone paying attention. Every child deserves protection. This is about those kids. It's about the little girl who never showed up to class again. The little boy whose bruises no one saw because he was no longer in the building. The child who desperately needed a safe adult but had no one left watching them. Again, let me be clear. The overwhelming majority of homeschool families already provide loving, safe homes where children thrive. Those families should not feel threatened by something that's a law whose only purpose is to protect children from abuse and from neglect. In fact, most homeschool families and parents support measures that ensure the credibility and integrity of homeschooling as a whole. Mr. President, protecting children is not a partisan issue. It's not an education issue. It's not a political issue. It's a moral one. If this can help save even one child from abuse, if it helps one teacher or one community recognize a child who needs help, then this is worth it. Our responsibility as leaders of this state is simple: protect the most vulnerable among us. Let me take this even further. The Bible is riddled with examples of Jesus protecting children. but I'll simply refer to Matthew 18:10, where it stated, "We as believers are commanded not to despise or mistreat little ones, because they are highly valued by God and watched over by angels." This verse itself speaks to protecting our most vulnerable children. And let's remember that Jesus grieves when kids are neglected. He grieves when children are turned away or denied their rights. And he grieves when children are not known, loved, or protected. It is our duty as leaders of this state to make sure we are doing our part in protecting children and the most vulnerable in our state. Mr. President, I urge adoption of this amendment.
Is there further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Senator from Cabell.
Briefly, Mr. President, because there really isn't much left to say after those remarks. These are the children that we pray about each day in here. They are the least among us. They have no lobbyists, and in the former position that I held for the Supreme Court, where I presided over thousands of juvenile court cases, I saw this happen. This is not a fiction of somebody's imagination. There are actual little children whose parents will do this, will flee. They will flee the state. They will hide out. They will do whatever it takes, because frequently the perpetrator of sexual abuse, physical abuse, lives inside that home. And it's a tug of war between and among the spouse, the abuser, and the child. And there are situations where the mother does in fact choose the father, or usually the stepfather, over the child. So again, this is not a bill about homeschooling, has nothing to do with that. This is about protecting these young children, and I would really like to see a unanimous vote. I can't imagine there's one person in this chamber that would ever be against protecting these vulnerable, neglected, or abused children.
Further discussion. Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we are voting on Raylee's Law. And not Raylee's Law as it's always been, but as an evolving and tightly woven amendment that is not trying to, again, punish anybody, but is trying to protect children. And I really appreciate all the work that's been done over several years to make this bill narrow, to make this bill aimed at preventing a parent accused of child abuse and neglect with a complaint from a teacher or school personnel, that complaint be taken into consideration, it be resolved within 10 days, and for that period of time, there's just a period of delay. This relates to the situation of Raylee Browning, who was 8 years old and found septic a year after she was taken out of her school when a teacher noticed that something was wrong, a red flag. This is not an indictment of all parents. This is an imperative duty to protect all children, a solemn responsibility to verify their safety where that red flag appears at school so they do not stay hidden from our sight. It's important we say the names. Raylee Browning, Kennedy Miller, Miana Moran. These are children who deserve better. We must say these names. We must remember these names. We must honor these names by protecting the children who are still at risk. We cannot wait for the next name. The child that we can protect right now. I urge adoption.
Are there further members wishing to speak to the bill or the amendment to the amendment? The senior senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I want to speak to there's no way that I can address this any better than either the junior senator from 4th or the senator from Marion or the senator from Cabell. But one of the things I want to maybe also point out that we're not discussed in that entirely is how some of the homeschooling community has taken this as something on them directly. And I want to go at that part a bit of it. As I mentioned earlier on another reel here earlier that I've homeschooled, or I say I should give my wife the credit for homeschooling our children because I just did the things that allowed her to do that. I have really, really close friends that have big homeschooling communities around them. Many kids they homeschool. They're people I've grown up with professionally. They're my neighbors. And so they have questions when this comes up. And in my eyes, doesn't have anything to do with homeschooling. Because it's not about homeschoolers. Homeschoolers I know, this isn't about them. They're some of the best parents you'll ever meet. Their whole lives revolve around those kids. Those kids, they don't go to school because the parents are home with them. They're teaching them there. They're doing their athletics. They're fighting for every kind of thing they can get for those kids. That's not who we're talking about here. This bill says that if there's an active child abuse investigation going on somebody, and they try to pull their kid away from people who would have caring eyes on that child, that within a day, they have to hear back from the department to see if there's an investigation going on. That's it. And then if they don't get a response within 10 days, then the kid can be pulled from school. So to anybody that's listening out there in the homeschooling community, this is a great way. This bill, aside from all the goodness that's in this bill for the children it would protect, it's also a great way to distinguish yourselves from some of the things I think that you're stamped with from some of the public school community that is unrightfully so because of cases that were just mentioned from the senator from Marion. So I'm a strong supporter for this. I urge adoption of the amendment. This thing needs to become law, Mr. President. I urge a vote yes.
Further discussion? If not, the question before the senator from Brook to close.
Mr. President, I will not be able to say it in the same way that many of my colleagues have been able to today. You had to craft something that is a balance, because this is a balancing act, Mr. President. This is trying to find a way to ensure that we are respecting a parent's rights and their wishes with that of protecting the children, and that's what we have here. We have timelines. Timelines as to when the teacher has to tell the super, timelines to when the super has to ask the Department of Human Services, and a timeline to when the Department of Human Services has to make a substantiation. This is the balancing of all those interests. And the most important interest taken into account with this balancing test is the protection of a little kid. If I was someone who homeschooled my children, and I know many of them who do, and they love their children, that's why they do it, and they care for them more than anything in the world, I would want something like this, because this is not an attack on the homeschooling community. This is an attack on those who purport to be homeschoolers, the pretenders, those who are taking their child out of school simply to hide the abuse that they give to them, simply to hide the neglect that those children suffer at home, because they don't want to get in trouble. So I'm going to masquerade myself as a homeschooler. It's exactly what this is about, not the actual homeschooling parents, the ones that love their children, the ones who take care of them. Mr. President, I spent years as a prosecutor. I spent years working on abuse and neglect cases, seeing kids that were in homes that no human should have ever been in an environment that no child should be raised in. That's what this is about. It's not about the family who loves their kid. It's about their kid who can't speak up on their own. It's about the kid that has to go live someplace else, in a hotel room someplace else, because they've been taken into the system because of abuse and neglect. It's about standing up and making sure that someone has an eye on them. I urge adoption.
The question before the Senate is the adoption of the amendment to the amendment offered by the senator from Brooke. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the amendment?
No, sir.
The question before the Senate is the adoption. Senator from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that this amendment has been amended to the Education Committee amendments, is the Education Committee amendment germane to the bill?
Senate be at ease. To the senator from Jefferson, your point is well taken. The amendment as amended is not germane to the bill. Are there further amendments to the bill? The senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I challenge the ruling of the chair.
The Senator Brooke has challenged the ruling of the chair. Senate be at ease. Okay. Senator from Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a point of clarification. So if we vote yes, then we are standing with the president as far as we agree with his ruling and the parliamentarians?
That would be correct. Senator from Brooke.
Mr. President, so if we are voting no, if someone votes no right now, they are voting to allow for the amendment that was just adopted in an overwhelming voice vote to be continued on as part of this bill. Is that correct?
It would be to overrule the decision of the chair on its germaneness.
So
What
if
your motion is to overrule the ruling of the chair has ruled that is not germane.
So if they voted yes on the amendment to the amendment, they should vote no right now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is the motion to challenge the ruling of the chair. Should the chair be sustained? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll calls, but demand sustained. The demand is sustained. All those in favor of the ruling of, or sustaining the ruling of the chair will vote yea. All those opposed to the ruling of the chair will vote nay. Clerk will prepare the machine. On this question, 12 yeas, 18 nays, 4 absent and not voting. The less than a majority of voting to sustain the decision of the chair. The motion passes. The decision of the chair has been overruled. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Questions on passage of the bill? All those in favor will vote yea. Yeah, questions on the adoption of the amendment as amended to the bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The question before the Senate is the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk will prepare the machine. Several member voted, several member voted. So clerk close the machine and ascertain results. On this question, 24 yeas, 7 nays, 3 absent, not voted. More than the majority of those present have voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. The clerk has the title amendment.
Senator Weld moved to amend the title of the bill.
Questions on the title amendment? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed